Wake up, Twins territory. Welcome to Twins Hangouts. I'm Jeremy Nygaard, joined by Seth Stowe. Seth, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome. A little wore out from the first actual high school football practice of the year, but other than that, I'm doing great. So, lots of stuff to talk about. Let's just jump right into it. Obviously, the Twins had an off day yesterday, and they are back in action tonight at home for a two-game set before heading out to Oakland. And let's start off with kind of a conversation that we were having right before we came on air, and that was about the potential rotation that the Twins have or could have. And just to kind of set the picture here, the Twins optioned down Logan Darnell after Sunday's game. Darnell was obviously one of the 5 starters that the Twins had. They sent him to Rochester. Rochester has a number of starters, obviously, prospects to non-prospects, but guys that they have that are available. So currently, as we sit here today, the Twins have 4 starters on their roster. The spot that was opened up by Darnell was filled by Jordan Schaefer, who we'll talk about briefly. But the Twins have 4 starters. Gibson pitched Sunday. Then there was an off day. Now we're looking at Hughes tonight. So the other guys that are left are Correa, who is, I believe, scheduled to pitch tomorrow, and Johan Pino, then, who would be scheduled to pitch the day after tomorrow, which I believe is Thursday. Then we could bring Kyle Gibson back on normal rest because of the off day on Friday, which leaves a gaping hole on Saturday. What would you do, Mr. Seth?
Well, I mean, again, people weren't privy to our on-air or pre-air discussion, but we have kind of talked through this. One option might be the guy they just acquired, which is Tommy Malone, though he threw tonight and threw well. So he would, if he were to make that start on Saturday, it would be on 3 days rest, and I can't imagine the Twins really wanting to do that, especially with a first start. So the options are basically Trevor May and Alex Meyer. Alex Meyer's not on the 40-man roster, though if you look at his statistics of late, he has given up 2 runs or less and gone 6 innings or more. I think it's been 6 straight starts. So he's certainly a candidate, but with the roster at 40, I would think that might wait. The other option is Trevor May, who, as we talked about a week ago, really looked like all he needed to do was get back up to 100 pitches. His most recent start before yesterday on Monday was limited to 77 pitches. The things that were said were he needs to be able to go 90 to 95 or even 100 pitches. Well, on Monday night he threw 99 pitches, and as far as I've heard, no complications, no issues. And hello, I forgot what I was going to say. A little bit excited here. But no, I think it's Meyer's time, and unfortunately we can't talk about what just happened at Target Field that made the score change here, but it's kind of exciting. So that tells you what's going on if you're watching, or even if you know what's happening later. But anyway, no. So I mean, to me, the easy answer is Trevor May, and I'd be really disappointed if it was anyone but him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was trying to flip through the script on my phone when I heard the hello call, so I didn't realize what was going on because I'm just a little slow today. But yeah, I think the Trevor May call is obvious. I guess for me, it's how you go about making that spot on the 25-man. How would you do it?
You know what? It really shouldn't be a pitcher. I mean, I guess it could be a back of the bullpen type, but you're kind of going with an extra right now. So I think it's probably Chris Colabello. That would be my thought. Like I said, it could be maybe a Ryan Presley, or they could certainly DFA someone if they were so inclined, which I don't think they would be. So honestly, I don't think it's going to be Kenny Vargas, just because he's doing well so far, and they're going to want to give him an opportunity, especially with the power potential that he has. So I think Colabello is unfortunately the odd man out in this situation.
So you think he goes down to make room for May to start on Saturday?
I think so. I mean, obviously we're just kind of guessing here, but that would be my thought. Another thing is with the Red Wings sending both Reynaldo Rodriguez and Nate Hansen back down to New Britain. There is a first base opening right now in uh, in Rochester. So I mean, there is some. If you choose to read too far into some things, that kind of opened up a spot there for Colabello to fit back into. But I don't hope that to happen, but I think that is most realistic at this point.
Okay. Let's take that one step further then. Who starts Sunday's game? You're going to continue with the 5-man rotation with Johan Pino being in it?
Not necessarily. I would on Sunday. I think Phil Hughes. I mean, that's his natural starting. With him starting tonight, and with him pitching, really, I mean, obviously he's been struggling lately, but I think Phil Hughes is going to keep on his 5-day rotation. So I would think that Hughes would start on Sunday.
Okay. I guess my kind of thought is to eventually the switch has to be made where Tommy Malone comes up. The reason
Yep,
that he was sent down,
I've got him
and he
down.
wasn't even sent down by the Twins. I mean, I know there was people that were shocked, like what the heck are the Twins doing? But he pitched on last Tuesday, and the thing that's curious for me is he pitched Tuesday. He could have pitched earlier. He didn't. And yet, then when they're going to line him up, they lined him up to pitch this Tuesday, where why not have him pitch, Monday, or have him pitch even Sunday, which he could have done? Why have him wait a whole week to pitch and put him on Phil Hughes' rotation? So then on Sunday, when it's his turn to pitch, it's Hughes' time to go. For me, it just seems kind of silly. Now I could see what the Twins doing a thing where after Pino makes a start, they option him down and call up Trevor May, and then after the May game, and then you send Colabello down, and then you call up Malone and have him pitch on Sunday, and just back your guys up a day. Now it makes sense that you would keep Hughes on his normal rest, but I just don't understand why where you're essentially picking the day that Malone's going to make his debut for the Red Wings, you pick Tuesday. It just, for me, that was a curious move.
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, when we talk about the guy that's going to get called up or get sent down from Malone, I mean, yeah, you can do whatever you want with the roster management to make it make sense. I mean, yeah, they could send someone down and call up a reliever in between or something like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, they just have to give guys a chance, and I think they want May to start on Saturday. And coming into his most recent start, they were basically saying he just needs to get to the point where he can throw 100 pitches, or we're comfortable that he can throw 100 pitches. So I think they set it up so that he was going to pitch on Saturday. And after that, they could have had him. They could have had Malone pitch on tonight or yesterday, or they could have done it however they wanted. I just think you got a situation where you're going to want Hughes to go on his regular rest, so I'd give him Sunday against the A's. Gardy and the Twins, rightfully so, are one of those teams that want to go and put out their best lineups against the teams that are competing for playoff time. So I'd have no problem with Hughes getting that shot. And also, you can start Malone on Monday, if you want, in Houston, or even, that would be Correa's spot. And as much as we may want to see him DFA'd or somebody to claim him or something like that, and have Malone start on Monday, it doesn't hurt if Malone starts on Tuesday in Houston. So, I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, personally, I could care less which day it is. I just want to know that it's going to happen. You know, I mean, I don't care if he's, starts on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. I want to know that he's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that just doesn't line up for me is you bring a guy in, he pitches on Tuesday, bring him in Thursday. Now he waited essentially a week to pitch again on Tuesday, but now we're saying, well, he could not fit in until Tuesday again, which just seems like it was mismanagement of the rotation. Where a guy that's
I mean,
probably
you're overthinking it a little bit.
what's that?
I mean, I think you're overthinking it a bit. He didn't even go to Louisville until like Sunday or Monday.
Right, which
I mean, yeah, he traded on Thursday, so
that's ridiculous. Like, why? Why is that happening? I may be overthinking it, but you bring a guy into an organization, let's get him in there instead of, okay, well, it's Thursday. I think you reported to Louisville either Sunday night or Monday morning. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, three full days. Then he pitches, and then you wait another week. This is a guy that if you lined up all of the pitchers that the Twins have thrown out there this year, statistically is the best pitcher that they've had, or that they currently have. So why jerk the guy around? Why not have him? Why not have this guy be the guy that you pitch the most? Now, he didn't have a very, very good outing last Tuesday, but that's in the PCL where, like you said last week, we could hit 300. So
yeah,
I don't understand. When you have a guy like Alex Meyer who's going to be on an innings limit, you have a guy like Trevor May who's coming off of an injury. Then you look at other guys like Kyle Gibson, who I don't know if they want to ramp him up to 200 innings. Why is there this new guy that I mean, it's not like he's Cy Young, but why not have this guy have an opportunity to pitch more than what the Twins are doing, and that's pitching him less? That's my beef.
So at the end of the day, he probably misses one start, and they'll all get 9 more starts this season.
Probably.
I mean, whether it's Sunday or Tuesday, he's going to make the same number of starts the rest of the season.
Maybe, but in the course of his time with the Twins, in 2 full weeks, he'll have made 2 starts. Which, if they would have handled that a little bit better, he could have made 3 starts. Now, if this was just if this was Sean Gilmartin or Mark Hamburger, I got no problem with it. But when it's a guy that's like 6-3 in the big leagues and a guy that should just be in their rotation today, not yesterday because then he would have been a free agent a little earlier. Today, get him in the rotation today and let's not dick around with him anymore.
Well, let's also remember that we're guessing what the Super 2 number is going to be and that kind of stuff, and when the exact date of 3 years is going to be. So, I mean, waiting an extra day or 2 may make all the difference in the world.
The confirmed day, the confirmed service that he has, I'm going to open this up to make sure that I'm correct. The confirmed service time that Tommy Malone has is 2 years and 116 days. So today, if you brought him up today to make a start, and he was on through the end of the year, he would end up 1 day short of 3 years. If they're going to try to avoid Super 2, he can't even be a September call-up. And if you're not going to bring him up in September.
Yeah, that wasn't the issue. It was whether or not the 4th year of arbitration.
Yeah. For sure. He's gonna go to arbitration this year, but it's whether he does it as a 3+ player or as a Super 2. To me, that doesn't matter that he's going. But at this point, he's going to be a Super 2, so bring him up. But I mean, now he'll be 5 days.
I just really have a big concern whether it's on Monday or Tuesday or Sunday. It's all the same.
I'm just saying, if I was lining it up, I would have done it in a little more responsible way. Are you okay with that or not okay with that?
All right. Sure.
Okay. Now, we can talk about what else happened in Rochester yesterday. What happened in Rochester yesterday?
Yesterday, Trevor May threw.
No, but then what was the news that who showed up in their clubhouse?
Aaron Hicks showed up later yesterday.
That's right. He's back. Aaron Hicks, promoted from New Britain to Rochester at the expense of relief pitcher who's currently on the 40-man roster, Edgar Ibarra, left-handed reliever. You okay with that move, Aaron Hicks moving up?
Oh, absolutely. We kept thinking it would be a corresponding timeline with Byron Buxton moving up to New Britain, but frankly, Buxton hasn't hit enough at Fort Myers yet to really warrant that call. So, they just had to get him up. It'll be good for him to get a full month or maybe even 5 weeks in Rochester and see if he can't get things going there. Or I guess keep things going there. He played left field tonight and was 0 for 2 with a walk, although Rochester had just 2 hits in the entire game. So it's a good move, and it needed to happen. I have no problem with the amount of time that he spent in New Britain. I thought it was more important that he get some confidence back, however that happened. And I think that needed to happen at Double-A. And now that he's sustained it for a while, I think he's ready for Triple-A, and give him 5 weeks and then see where he's at.
So why do you think, what's the rationale behind having him play all 3 outfield positions?
Part of me says that it's because he really hasn't done that before. He's really only played center field. Part of me thinks that it might make him focus on defense a little bit. And he's obviously a very good defense, but by being in a new position, it'll keep his mind on playing defense and knowing the angles and things like that, as opposed to having to focus on every at-bat, and that's all you're really thinking about, which you could probably do in center. And also, at the end of the day, Byron Buxton's going to be the center fielder of the future. And if Aaron Hicks wants to be with the Twins and not be a 4th outfielder, it'll be good for him to get an opportunity at those corner positions as well. And frankly, it could happen soon because, Josh Willingham and Oswaldo Arcia and Chris Parmelee aren't exactly great defenders and speedy types out there. So, Hicks could get a lot of time in those corner spots in September. So I think it's good. I think it's always valuable to give guys some position flexibility.
So could you see a situation where Hicks is up on the major league roster and he's playing in the corner and Santana's playing center field?
I think they'll continue to do that. And I think there'll be a few games like that, but I also think at some point they want to get Santana to shortstop and get him some time there, because I think that's where they see his future, obviously, because with Hicks and Buxton in center and Santana really having only played center field, I think it's important for him to get some time at shortstop. So I don't know that I would see it happening real frequently where Hicks is in a corner and Santana's in center, but it could a couple of times.
I thought as soon as Schaefer, and we should talk more about that, but as soon as he came on board, if he was in the lineup, that Santana would be in center field, or at shortstop, excuse me. Yet tonight, when the lineups were announced, Schaefer's in left field and Santana's in center field. Which to me, again, I don't know, maybe I'm just nitpicking here, but like you said, let's see Santana at shortstop, and why not do it right off the bat?
Yeah, and I do think we'll see a little bit of that, but I think Gardy's just in a position right now where he wants to mix and match, and I don't blame him for that. Willingham's a terrible outfielder. I said it Sunday or maybe even earlier that I would much rather see Schaefer out in left field than Willingham, even with the bat or the offensive issues. So I don't mind seeing Schaefer in left with Santana in center, but I do agree with what Gardy said pregame, and that's that Schaefer can play center, which will allow Santana to play short. But at the same time, Escobar deserves his playing time, and I don't have a problem with him getting into 4 or 5 games a week either. So I think we'll see more mix and match than just someone getting everyday playing time at different positions. But I think Santana is going to play pretty much every day, and that's the one piece that I think we all want to have playing every day.
Right. At this point, shouldn't it be Santana every day, Vargas every day, Arcia every day?
Absolutely. And it is. It has been.
Well, yeah. Vargas has played how many games now, including tonight?
I think he was called up, Friday?
Thursday he arrived late for batting practice, so Friday would have been his first game.
Yeah, so he's played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday. So this is his 4th game.
And
And he played every game.
so he's played a couple at first base, a couple at DH.
Yep.
I think that's totally fair. Hey, how crazy if when we started this show, which I don't even know, 36 weeks ago, if I would have said fast forward to August of 2014 and Danny Santana is your starting center fielder on a regular basis. Kenny Vargas is up. Jorge Polanco has been up twice. There's no Byron Buxton. There's no Miguel Sano. In fact, they're not even within two promotions.
Yeah, and I mean, no Eddie Rosario, and Aaron Hicks is in. He just got promoted to AAA. So yeah, I mean, it's always so funny when you have these can't miss prospects, and we talk about it all the time on here, and that's why we give more recognition, I think, than most people do to the names that aren't just the top prospects, because you never know what's going to happen. You know, I did a radio show in Fargo on Saturday morning, and we were talking about how it wasn't all that long ago that we were touting the depth the Twins had in the outfield, and right now basically they're playing Willingham or Schaefer in left, Santana in center, and Arcia or Parmley in right. I mean, there's really no certainty even there. So, it's kind of the beauty of the game. It just shows how hard it is to get to the major leagues, and it shows even more how hard it is to stay once you get there.
Because we're kind of talking about Vargas and having these guys have some flexibility, I want to kind of jump off and ask a question that was posed on Twitter to you from Brandon Warren. And that was basically, what are the chances that Joe Mauer plays a position other than first base or designated hitter?
I think there's a decent chance that he does it, say, once. He might play in the outfield once or twice, so I won't say that it's not going to happen, but I would say the odds are quite small. I mean, I'm thinking like less than 1%.
See, I look at how things are going to have to go, like, starting next year. You're going to have Vargas, who you want to get at bats. You're going to have Josmil Pinto, who you want to get at bats. To do that, Joe Mauer can't play first.
Okay.
But Mauer, I mean, Suzuki's going to be in the lineup. Pinto's, you're going to want to get him at bats, but not at catcher, so that's got to be DH. Vargas has to be the first baseman, so why wouldn't you look at getting Mauer accustomed to playing maybe left field? I just think that makes the most sense. If you want to get the best bats in the lineup, Mauer's athletic enough that he could play left field. Maybe not a great left field, but he'd be better than Kubel. He would be way better than Willingham. I would say I think Chris Parmley is underrated defensively in the outfield. But he wouldn't. I mean, that's the level that he would be on.
We thought first base was going to be easy because of his athleticism, and we've seen how stiff he is over at first base. And I mean, stiff as in not real flexible, not a lot of mobility side to side. And in the outfield, your biggest thing is your first step and some of those reactionary kind of things. And I don't think it's as easy as people think. I mean, you could try it. I'm fine with them trying it, but I truthfully don't think that he's going to be as good as people seem to think he is. And that's not a knock on him. I mean, he's been a catcher his whole life. He's probably pitched some in high school and maybe played some first base here and there, but it's not as easy as people seem to want to think it is.
Seth, why do you hate Joe Mauer?
I don't know.
Okay, so then think about this. If Mauer's going to be your first baseman, Vargas has got to be basically your everyday DH.
Yep.
Does Josmil Pinto get traded?
Probably. Or we accept the role that he's going to be the backup catcher who catches 3 times a week and maybe DHs once.
God, I think his bat's better than that, but I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind having that stick off the bench. You let a team bring in their best left-handed reliever and then throw Pinto in there to get in a bat. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I
Not a,
don't know that he's as people still remember what he did last September, and he does have home run power, but
he's a good bat. I mean, he's a good bat. He's not a great bat, but he's a good bat.
right. So I mean, it's not like a guy you want as your everyday DH. The way I think that maybe Vargas can be a guy that would be an everyday DH, although
Right.
it's really way too early to know that too.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's amazing on the telecasts when you hear them talking about how Vargas doesn't. His swing's not that long. For a big guy, his swing's not that long. Yet for the last 5 years in the minor leagues, that's been the knock on him is that he's not going to be able to catch up with major league fastballs because the swing is so long. So
Right. And that's the beauty of the small sample. I mean, it's like people talking about Polanco's strong arm at shortstop because of one play that they saw him make on TV.
right.
I mean, Vargas and Pinto are good prospects, but I don't think either one of them is necessarily a top 10 Twins prospect going into the year. I had him at the bottom part of my top 10 for Pinto, and Vargas was more in that 15 range. These aren't the guys you move a Hall of Famer for. I mean, you're not going to move Joe Mauer because of Josmil Pinto or Kenny Vargas.
No, you're
Not
probably right.
anytime soon. I mean, maybe in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, sure, but not now.
I think there's a chance. You say less than 1%. I say the chance is more like 30. I think there's a 30% chance that he plays not a significant amount of time, but plays enough outfield in spring training and I don't know when else he would play it, but he would play enough that he would play a day or two in the outfield at least to have some versatility that you could have Vargas play first and have Pinto DH or whatever. But he did play it a little bit. How many years ago was that? Was that 3 years when he played some right field?
He played one game.
Is that what it was? Just one game?
Yeah.
It was crazy. But
It was because Renee Tassoni took the wrong plane or something like that.
that's funny. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the offseason plays out because I think if Vargas can keep it going, I mean, he's earning his spot every day with his play. So that's great. I mean, Santana's done the same thing, and Hicks certainly didn't. Arcia didn't do it over long periods of times. But when you have young guys come up and earn that spot, obviously we're talking about 4 games, but he's earning the next day with his performance. So that's a promising thing. We've been doing this for about 30 minutes. Obviously, if you're watching live, thanks for hanging out. You can ask questions on the Q&A feature on our event page, and we'll try to get to those. I'm opening up that app right now. And, you're always welcome to download us from iTunes later. That's usually up the next day. And leave feedback on the iTunes site. Subscribe to us. Do all those nice things so we can see what people like, what people don't like. 30 minutes in, and we have not talked about the news that came down. What day was it? The Jordan Schaefer news.
Sunday.
Sunday about 1-ish. Now I had a gut feeling that we were going to get the famous Lavelle tweet before the game. Expect roster moves today. I just had a feeling that we were going to get that, and instead we didn't. We never got that exact tweet. We got the Twins have been awarded the claim on Jordan Schaefer. So here's what I knew about Schaefer before he was a Twin, and then I'll let you tell us why you like Jordan Schaefer. I knew that he was a big-time prospect for the Braves. I knew that he was involved in an HGH thing, and not necessarily that he had tested, but I knew that he was involved with something, got suspended for 50 games. And then I knew that he later, I believe when he was with the Astros, had another drug deal that he was in trouble for. He went from top prospect in baseball to someone that I had not really heard much of. You, on the other hand, had tweeted a week ago or more, would have been shortly after he was DFA'd, that he was a guy that you could see the Twins coming after. So why don't you give us kind of your quick scouting report on Jordan Schaefer?
I mean, he's a speed guy, and he's a good outfielder. I'm not saying he's a great outfielder. He's maybe not Sam Fuld, but he's a good outfielder. He's 5 years younger than Sam Fuld. He's still just 27, despite all that he's been through. My recollection of that HGH situation, he actually turned himself in for that, which I think is, admirable in some way, I guess, if you want. But my other point on that is if PEDs or any sort of drug suspension is a reason not to get him, then the Twins should get rid of several guys in the organization, including a couple of big leaguers, including one that hit a home run tonight. But, I just think 27, what's the risk? There's no risk. And he's cheap. He's not
that cheap. He's twice the minimum.
Well, which is nothing.
Right. Well, nothing to professional baseball,
I mean, what is it, 200,000 over the rest of the year? I mean, it's nothing, and now you've got that depth in center field. You've got a guy that can play there. You can move Santana into short. I mean, you can play him, like I said earlier, instead of Willingham in left, and I'd be good with that. So, I mean, there's no risk in taking a 2-month stretch, and let him play. Yeah, he didn't hit it all for he didn't hit it all in Atlanta, but he had like 80 plate appearances over 90 days or 100 games or something. So clearly he was getting an occasional pinch hit, or mainly he was pinch running. So I'd like to see what he can do for a full month worth of playing time. If he hasn't done anything by then, you call up Hicks in early September and you let him go. But I mean, give him a month and just see. Again, he's only 27. He's younger than a lot of these guys that have only been around the team for a year or two. So I don't see a downside in it.
So what do you think his project his off season for us?
His off season?
Yeah, like how do the Twins handle him moving forward?
Oh, I mean, I would assume by the end of the year they're going to designate him for assignment. I mean, if he comes in and does well and is Sam Fuld, they could sign him for cheap. He's not going to cost anything next year. Maybe it's going to bump up to $1.25 million or something like that next year, and I'd take that for a fourth outfielder if he does that. I mean, Sam Fuld was a great pickup because he wasn't necessarily a guy that teams wanted at the time. I mean, he is what he is, and he outperformed what he was with the Twins, and they were able to turn him around. And I mean, this is another opportunity. I've said for a long time, and others have too. I'm not saying it's just me, but the Twins should do this with their 40th and 38th spots on the 40-man roster. They should take chances on guys like this and just see. I mean, again, he's young and he's got some talent, so it's, can you bring it out? And if not, move on to the next attempt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as a fourth outfield type, I don't know that defensively he's going to be defensively he won't be in the same category as Sam Fuld. I don't think. Offensively, I mean, he's a few cuts below, but if he can play all three positions and be a pinch runner and a guy that can bunt some people over, because the Twins have really failed to do that really for a long time. So yeah, I mean, he could be a bench guy and be a pinch runner, and I have no issues with that. But I don't know if they DFA him or they just don't offer him. You don't offer him arbitration, and then just try to sign him.
For a cheap deal. Yeah, that's fine.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. Knowing that there's not anybody right on the horizon that's going to be that guy. So yeah. I have my issues with it were that if you're looking for a guy to replace Sam Fuld, that Eric Ferris could have done that. But at the same time, to have a former top prospect get another shot, there's really no issue with that either. So I just think at this point you kind of know what he is, and what he is a guy that's not going to hit very often.
which is fine. I mean, there's role players in the game. Not everyone has to hit. I like Ferris. Don't get me wrong. I would have been totally fine with them just adding Ferris. But, I mean, I look at Schaefer's a year younger than Eric Ferris is. Ferris is really an infielder. Some that are listening or see those minor league reports, he's been playing center field most of the year for Rochester, and from all reports, doing very well. But he is a infielder. In fact, his cups of coffee with the Brewers a few years back were both, well, mainly as a pinch runner, but where he was a second baseman. So,
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying he can't do it. He's done just fine. But, I mean, again, this guy's younger, and he has the status of former top prospect that just you might try to catch lightning in a bottle. So, like I said, I like it. It may not be a good sign at the end of the day. I mean, in one game we've seen good and bad, which you could on any game with any player, good or bad. But I mean, why not?
Yeah, if you would have told me on Easter, if you would have called me on Easter and said, "Hey, we're going to turn Darren Mastriani into Tommy Malone and Jordan Schaefer," I'd make that deal.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I was the one that really liked Darren Mastriani. So
And I would take Schaefer over him head to head.
that's because you didn't like his giant beard and his long hair at Twins Fest.
Something like that.
You're jealous of all the hair that he was able to grow.
I miss having hair sometimes.
Let's move on to the next note here. We can talk a little bit about what's going on in Cedar Rapids. You're not there. I'm not there. Jim Cricket, Steve Burr's not there.
Yeah.
Who is there is Joe Mauer and Ricky Nolasco. And it was the end of June that I made the prediction that when, I think it was the end of June, I'd have to look back, that when Joe Mauer started to return to health, that he would head down to Cedar Rapids and do his rehab. I just hoped that it was going to happen that weekend that I was down there, and that didn't work out. So he and Nolasco made it down yesterday. Mauer took batting practice, but how did it work out? It started to rain?
Yeah, it was raining at that time. They had opened up the gates at 3 o'clock, and it started raining, and so he actually hit underneath the stadium bleachers in their batting cages indoors. And I know Jeff Johnson from the Gazette in Cedar Rapids had some video of that. He then met with the media, I think at 2:45ish or something like that. But then I know he signed autographs for like 45 minutes or an hour up on the concourse. He also was down the right field line signing autographs, and I've seen video of him, doing interviews tonight already after his time, after his innings. So, hopefully it continues to go well.
And Nolasco, he makes a start tonight. Now, it was kind of funny. Before the game, there was a report that he may not pitch because he forgot to bring the Major League Baseballs.
Right.
I didn't realize there was a huge difference between the Midwest League Baseballs and Major League Baseballs.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what it is. It could be a slight weight difference. It could be a slight, difference in the stitching and things like that. Maybe the height of the stitches or things like that. But yeah, there is a difference, and I don't know that it's a big deal. Nolasco made the comment that he would have pitched with the Midwest League, baseballs and would have been fine with that. But I truly don't know the total difference. I'm guessing the minor league ones are cheaper.
Well, I mean, you can buy a minor league baseball, a Midwest League baseball in the pro shop for like $6, but to get the Major League Baseball, it's more like, 18. So maybe that's the difference. They're 3 times as expensive. That's the only difference.
I mean, yeah, maybe that's it.
I have both Midwest League and Major League Baseballs in my house. I should check it out after the show and see what the difference is. Let's jump down to, before we get into the minor league deal, let's talk about Trevor Plouffe. You want to talk about Trevor Plouffe?
I mean, we can. I mean, I was talking to our friend Travis the other day, and he asked the question of whether or not you extend Trevor Plouffe. My initial and quick response was no. I don't see really any value in extending him at this time. I mean, Miguel Sano's obviously in the picture. Whether or not he can play third, I'm not certain, and I believe he can, but there's some that maybe think he can't. If he couldn't, maybe there's value in bringing Plouffe back. The other thing is even if Sano is a third baseman, Plouffe has enough versatility, and he's played both corner outfield positions that he could move back there. So I think he'll be a guy that's around for a long time. My opinion is you just kind of go year to year. He's going to get a big bump, as you mentioned last week, next year in the second year of arbitration. But I have a sense that he's going to be around for a while, so maybe there is some value in approaching the conversation. What do you think?
Well, I don't know who you compare him to, and I mean, as far as trying to structure a long-term deal, you'd want to buy out a year of free agency, or at least have an option for a year of free agency. So now you're going to guarantee, he's got 3 years arbitration left. So you'd have to go 3 years and an option for a fourth. I think that's getting too lengthy. I'd have to do a little research on the type of contract that he could maybe get. But when you figure Sano is going to have to play third, I mean, if he can't play third, that it just adds another body to the mix of people that we talked about.
Right.
He's going to play third, in my opinion, long term for the Twins, even if he's below average defensively, and I think he'll be fine. But so that Plouffe can't play first with Mauer and Vargas there, he's not going to play third. Arce is going to play right. So then, is he become your super utility? I mean, a super utility type guy? There's no point in going long term with a guy like that.
Agreed.
I think you enter this off season, and you offer him whatever you want arbitration wise, and you get his number, and then you agree on the midpoint like the Twins always do, and see how he does in 2015.
Right. And see how all the other pieces kind of come together too.
Right. He's had thumb deals, right? He had a thumb deal, a concussion, and then was it a calf?
Yep.
So he's had 3 DL stints since his home run barrage of 2012. It hasn't shown that same power, but his ability to hit it in the gap and hit some doubles. I mean, he's a valuable guy. I guess I don't ever see him being, the answer on a playoff team, the answer for a playoff team looking for a third baseman. But I think in the right situation, he's a very valuable person, and maybe, he's a guy that only, when you're a right-handed power bat, it's hard, and I don't know that you can extend him. Give him his $5 million next year. He's the third baseman. Bring Sano up. See what else he can do, and then maybe kind of look at what he's going to be worth in 2016, and go from there. I couldn't commit years and dollars to a guy that there's so much uncertainty around who he is and what he. I mean, granted, we've seen a lot of him, but I can't make that commitment.
Yep, I mean, I think we're in agreement, but I do think it is an interesting discussion just because of the flexibility that he does provide, and the fact that there are a lot of question marks going into not only next year, but how it's all going to play out over the next few years.
Right, and I think the easy comparison to make is Michael Kadire.
Right.
He bounced around basically the same way that Plouffe did. Now, Cuddy spent more time at second base. Right, he played like basically a whole year at second base, right? Or am I remembering that wrong?
No, I think he played about 2 months or something. I'm trying to remember. It was right after Luis Castillo. Well, I don't remember when it was.
But so he didn't come up as a shortstop. Was he drafted as a shortstop?
Yeah, but he only spent 1 year in the minors at shortstop.
And then moved to third.
Yep.
And then
eventually out to the outfield.
the outfield, and then played a little second, and then moved back to third, if I remember right, and then before finally settling in right field.
Yep, they just finally let him go out to the outfield, and he turned it around, and everything was wonderful.
Right. And if that's how Plouffe ends up, and I just don't know how he could play every day in the outfield as far, just matchup wise. But maybe to start the year next year, Willingham's gone, you need a left fielder, potentially. I don't know. It's an interesting situation just because there should be so many guys that are arriving around the same time, and Plouffe's obviously going to get every opportunity because he's a homegrown, not necessarily from the cities, but a guy that was developed by the Twins, and it's an interesting discussion for sure. For me though, let's go year to year, and the last guy that I recall, the last position player getting a multi-year deal while he was in the arbitration process. You know who it was?
Denard Span or Nick? No, it would have been Nick Black. Nope.
Position player.
I don't know. Morneau maybe.
Brendan Harris.
Oh yeah, 2-year deal.
Got a 2-year deal, and it was like, what the heck just happened? They were so far apart when they exchanged numbers, from what I remember, that they basically just had 2 years at the total numbers and got him cheaper than they thought they would otherwise. And or maybe he took 2 years on an average. The way that it worked out, the Twins are like, well, it was a no-brainer. Only he was brutal like months later.
Right.
And then, obviously shipped off in what deal was he shipped off in?
I don't know. To go to Baltimore?
Was it the Hardy deal?
I think so.
Yeah. The forgotten part of the JJ Hardy deal. Hey, we're only going to give you crap prospects back because we're taking on Brendan Harris. You got a deal. Craziness. Let's move over now to. Do you want to give a Rochester update, or do we want to talk coaching staff first?
Which coaching staff?
Well, let's do this. Let's do minor league. Let's do all the minor league stuff, and then at the end we'll bring it back because we have a question in the queue, kind of about the coaching staff, and that's something that we talked about. Let's have that discussion, but let's have it in about 20 minutes after we go through the minor league stuff.
Sounds like a good plan. Well, let me start with Rochester then. Tonight, Tommy Malone did make his Rochester debut, and it got off to a really rough start. He actually gave up a run in the first inning, I believe, but he had 2 walks and gave up 2 or 3 hits or right away in the first 2 innings. But he settled down really well. He ended up giving up 1 run on 6 hits over 7 innings. He walked 2 and struck out 3. And then Aaron Thompson came in and threw 2 shutout innings, or 1 shutout inning. But it wasn't enough because Rochester lost 1-0 to Dylan Axelrod of Louisville. Not much offense, as I said earlier. 2 hits only in the game. Aaron Hicks played left field, was 0 for 2 with a walk. And James Beresford knocked his 24th double of the year. So not a real great game there. As we talked about, Trevor May threw on Monday, and Alex Meyer threw on Sunday. The news that some people sure seem to enjoy talking about was that Scott Diamond pitched on Monday against Trevor May and threw 7 2/3 shutout innings, but oh well.
I got to write about that. That was glorious.
Oh yeah, good times. We want to talk more about that, or should we just keep going through the scoreboard?
Well, I think Rochester is like a game and a half back out of the International League playoffs. They're like a game and a half back of the leader in the division and like a half game back in the wild card. So as you and I obviously watch it, and you say you're a Twins fan and you don't even look at that till later. Um, but if you're listening and you find yourself watching the transactions, just keep in mind that they're trying to do some things too, and I don't know how much that really affects. I don't think it affects the Twins' decisions at all. Um, but it's got to be something that at least crosses their mind, right?
Oh, I would hope so. I mean, because even if you look at the September call-ups, maybe 4 or 5 guys are going to come off of that Rochester roster and come up to the Twins. But, the other 20 guys have been playing all season long, and they're at 130, 140 games for a purpose. And if they've got an opportunity to make the playoffs, it means anywhere from 5 to 13 games more that they get to play. So, I mean, you have to be kind of fair to them and to that coaching staff and to those guys that have played together all year. At the same time, I mean, I find myself in a situation where part of me would like to see them, kind of have a little bit of a losing streak. And I know that those in Rochester or those that do follow are not going to like that. And I'm not asking that this happen, but I want to see May, Meyer, and Malone up in the Twins rotation. And, I don't want them playing in Rochester. So I kind of want them out of the playoff mix so that we can see them here for the final, 6 weeks of the season. But that's a little bit selfish, and I don't know. I mean, I hear so often, I like your thoughts on this too. I hear so often that they're going to learn so much more at the big league level. And there's obvious truth to that. They're going to, if learn nothing else, they'll learn where they're at and maybe a couple of hints here and there. But, I mean, the key is getting those innings or getting those at-bats and things like that. So at the end of the day, they're getting that playing time regardless, and that's, not a bad thing for them to make the playoffs.
Right. Well, I guess for me, Johan Pino was their best pitcher in Rochester.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they're if they're giving up Malone and May, they're getting back Darnell and Pino.
Right.
So it's not like they don't have options.
Absolutely.
Alex Meyer is going to get to a point, whether he's pitching in Rochester or Minnesota, if he's in a starting rotation, he's going to get to the point where the Twins shut him down because of innings. So regardless of where he's at, that's going to happen. I would just move him up into the Twins bullpen. I don't see. I mean, maybe he makes a few more starts, but you don't want to have a situation where, and it won't happen, but you don't want to have a situation where you have to shut the guy down in the middle of a pennant run because he hit his innings, and that's a discussion that we can have too. Like, how long does that last? But I think it's at the point where maybe Meyer makes a few more starts in Rochester, and then when the season's done, or when, if they don't make it, since Meyer has to be added to the 40-man anyway after the season, that's when you bring him up and just use him out of the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect he'll be up. It's just a matter of when and in what role. And big picture, it doesn't matter. I mean, I can keep going back to Chris Sale pitched out of the bullpen for a half a year and then a full year before the White Sox made him into a starter, and that's not a bad thing. Johan Santana was under different circumstances because of the fact that he was a Rule 5 guy. But, I mean, him pitching and learning out of the bullpen is not a bad thing either. So, I mean, there's no negative in any of that.
Oh, no, and it would be super fun to watch him in the bullpen because you know that he's going to have a little extra gas there. He'll hit triple digits.
Well, certainly, because he only has to worry about throwing one inning.
That's right. Okay, moving on to the Rock Cats.
All right, tonight New Britain lost 3-2 to Akron. Jason Wheeler was on the mound, gave up 3 runs on 7 hits and 2 walks in 6 innings, struck out 4, and then Adrian Salcedo struck out 2 over 2 scoreless innings. A couple guys that just were returned to New Britain had good games. Nate Hansen was 2 for 3 with a walk, and Reynaldo Rodriguez hit his 15th Rock Cats home run. Tony Thomas was 2 for 4 with his 24th double in that game.
The Rock Cats are not in a playoff chase.
Correct.
So the guys that are there and on option, uh, Polanco, obviously. Um, you think? I guess I was under the impression when he got transferred there that he would be coming up in September.
See, I don't think that's a given. I think they're going to want Santana at short. They're going to want Plouffe at third, and they're going to want Dozier at short. Escobar's already there, so I don't see any value unless they think he's going to play in calling him up. I mean, frankly, right now he's hitting 190 in New Britain, which of course is very small sample size and not a big deal. But the Twins aren't just going to call guys up just to call them up, and I don't think Polanco coming up's a given.
Yeah, at this point, with I mean, if he doesn't start to hit in New Britain, he probably won't. But it's like once you bring him from Fort Myers, who's guaranteed a playoff spot, guaranteed to play into, not into the first week of September, it changes a little bit. And then when you bring him up to New Britain, who's guaranteed not to play into September.
Right. Well, I mean, it's another good point. I mean, he could come up sooner, but I mean, let's see how this August plays out. I think he's a candidate to come up in September, but definitely far from a given just because he came up. I mean, the circumstances he came up in were unique, and I don't necessarily think it's a given.
Yeah, unique both times.
Correct.
Moving down to Fort Myers, who didn't have a lot of. Before we move on to Fort Myers, New Britain had two guys put on the disabled list. Jose Barrios, who injured himself last Tuesday night, but obviously being put on a 7-day disabled list when you can be retroactive to the injury, he's really eligible to come off already. Do you have any further insight on Jose Barrios, Seth?
Well, not anything definitive. I'm told that obviously he has missed a start already, and as we were told, they were planning on having him miss a start at some point here anyway. I would fully expect that he could start sometime this weekend, is what I'm hearing. Although they haven't set their roster or their rotation yet for the weekend, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he comes off the disabled list on, say, Friday or Saturday and makes that start.
Now, has he, to your knowledge, thrown any bullpens or done any pitching since the injury?
I don't know that with certainty. I guess I can try to find out, but I don't know if he has or not.
Well, I would anticipate that whatever his plan is, there's a ton of caution in that plan.
Yeah, absolutely. There should be.
Yeah, and if there's hope that he's going to pitch this weekend, that that the indication's been that he's throwing, pain free. The other move there was Mason Malatakis was removed from a game. I believe he was removed from the game with elbow discomfort. And it was interesting because he's on the Eastern League transaction page as being placed on the 60-day disabled list, which I've asked a number of times to a few people why the minor league has a 60-day disabled list, and they're not really sure. Obviously, the 60-day for the major leagues affords you extra spots on your 40-man. The theory could possibly be that the 60-man affords you extra spots on your reserve lists, but you see people getting placed on the 60-day in rookie ball. So, I'm kind of unclear about that. But anyway, leaving a game with elbow discomfort, being placed on a 60-day disabled list, may suggest that this elbow injury is not something that he's going to come back from anytime soon.
Yeah, and I mean that's all we have at this point. I haven't been able to confirm anything other than the disabled list thing, the elbow thing, but yeah, I mean I'm right there with you in thinking that it's not a 7-day disabled list thing where you can come back in a week or even 2 weeks. if they're putting him on a bigger disabled list, that definitely speaks to the concern. I mean, this just happened on Saturday, so I mean, generally speaking, you're a lot more cautious than that. I mean, in terms of using the disabled list, I mean, you look at Barrios. As much as we were concerned about him last Tuesday night, they didn't put him on the disabled list until like Sunday. So I mean, it's really surprising that they would have, or actually Monday, that they would have put him on the disabled list and made that clear of a statement in that 60-day thing by a day or two after it happened. So yeah, it's definitely not good news.
Right, and I mean, for all we know, that could be an error on the on the web page. Those rosters are not 100% accurate all the time. So that's obviously just something that we had noticed, and we knew that there was a left elbow injury that was involved in that as well. Okay, now I'm ready to move down to Fort Myers.
All right, well, Fort Myers actually didn't play today, which is probably a good thing. Although they did just end I think, 6-game losing streak. They've definitely been struggling a lot. One guy to note, though, is Max Kepler has hit in 10 of his last 11 games. So, I mean, there are some positives coming out of there. They've just really struggled. Their pitching hasn't been as good. Tim Shibuya, I know, went on the disabled list as well after a start that he struggled. So, they're a playoff team, and they'll make the playoffs. They were actually, and I didn't look at this, but they did have the best overall record in the Florida State League, and that's probably changed at this point. The other piece of news that came out of there is that they have a new home run king in Fort Myers, and that's Adam Walker, who hit his 22nd home run. I think it was a 3-run homer yesterday to set that new record. It was the record set previously by Brock Peterson, a first baseman who actually just made his major league debut last year towards the end of the year. A real good story there. Brock Peterson, a 48th round draft pick or 49th round pick of the Twins all those years ago. But so, I mean, obviously, congratulations to Adam Walker on that. Anything else you got from down there?
No, you had mentioned that they were on a 6-game skid. They broke out of it in a big way yesterday. Buxton did not play in that game. That was really all I think I had for them yesterday. They've already wrapped up the first half, so I mean they could lose every game for the rest of the season and still make the playoffs. But do you think that the success that they've had is, I mean they've had talented rosters, no doubt, but you bring in a new manager, Doug Mankiewicz, who's fiery and a lot of different things, and they've played really, really good baseball over the last year and a half. How much of that is just the skill of the players, and how much of that is this manager of theirs?
Well, it's a little of both, and I mean clearly last year's roster and most of this year's roster is pretty talented. When you consider Buxton and Sano and Rosario and Polanco and Walker and I mean all the names, even Goodrum and Harrison, and last year's team was just loaded too, pitching and hitting. So I'm obviously one who typically will give most of the credit to the players. But, I mean, in my opinion, Doug Mankiewicz is a younger version of Ron Gardenhire. Like you said, he's going to stand up for his players. He's going to expect, certain things from everyone. And, he's going to be a guy that behind the scenes is going to make sure that things are done right. Doesn't mean it's always going to translate. And especially at those younger levels, you're going to see more mistakes. But, I mean, I think he deserves a lot of credit, and players really seem to respond well to him. I mean, it's kind of you've got two polar opposites in Jake Mauer at Cedar Rapids and Doug Mankiewicz at Fort Myers, and both of them are very smart and very intense, but outwardly it shows differently. But both of them are good coaches, good communicators from what I've heard, and guys that just know the game really well and have lived it their entire lives. Similarly, the pitching coaches, Ivan Arteaga is much different than Gary Lucas. and that's a good thing because I mean you're going to get different angles and different perspectives, and I mean it's kind of interesting. I definitely think Minkiewicz deserves some of that credit.
The best Minkiewicz story so far has to be the game last year where he got into a brawl with the opposing manager, right?
Yeah. See, that just shouldn't happen. That
But
might be taking it a little bit far.
it's awesome.
It's an awesome story.
And was he suspended?
Nope.
Did the Not by the league, not by the Twins, not anything.
Nope. Nope.
Was he
Nope.
named like
No, because you remember it happened right after the Miguel Sano bat flip, and a lot of people thought that Minkiewicz and Sano should be under the same rules.
but didn't it happen like the day that Minkiewicz was named Florida State Manager of the Year?
Yeah, something like that. That sounds right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's a fiery dude. Um, it's interesting that they've been as good as they have been. I mean, I I looked at one point what his record was like in the first 20 games of the season because they've got off to just crazy good starts both years. Um, those numbers escape me now, but his both years the starts in Fort Myers have been phenomenal. So hopefully, if he continues at that level, that or whatever team he's managing can put up the big numbers. Cedar Rapids, there's some big news coming out, leaking out of Cedar Rapids today. Do you want to cover that?
Well, obviously the big news was Joe Mauer and Ricky Nolasco were making their rehab appearances there. Mauer had actually taken batting practice on Monday, like we talked about earlier, and he did again tonight. And then he was the designated hitter. He went 1 for 3 with a single. Ricky Nolasco started. He threw 3 2/3 innings, no runs, 2 hits, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts. Reports had him hitting 91, maybe 92 a couple of times, so generally where he's been at in the past too. So he was at his 50 pitch limit at 3 2/3 innings, and they got him out, and it sounds like he'll make another start for the Colonels on Sunday. So get down there if you're able to. Ryan Eads came on, kind of piggybacking off of Nolasco. He went the next 4 1/3, no runs, 2 hits, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts, and then Hudson Boyd gave up a hit and a walk, but threw a scoreless inning. The Colonels actually scored 6 runs in the 4th inning to jump out to that 9-0 lead that they held. Chad Christensen had a 2-run home run. It was his 9th home run of the year. Brian Haar and Alex Swim each had 2 hits in the game, and kind of everyone contributed a little bit.
While you were giving that update, I walked over in my house and picked up a official ball of the Midwest League and an official Major League Baseball. And I'm holding them one in each hand, and I'm fairly certain they're the exact same.
Yeah, I don't know how to be able to tell the difference.
Like I thought maybe the stitches were. That's okay. There's one difference. The stitches on the minor league ball are wider. I think. Goodness sakes. There's no like I thought maybe the one of the stitches was more raised. I don't think that's the case at all. The size of the lace maybe of of the of the seam. I don't know how that would be this huge deal. We got someone else in the call. That's not gonna happen.
Huh.
Um, yeah, don't know how that happened. Um, how the heck did that happen?
You know what? I'm going to go in, and I had mentioned for people to come to our Google Plus Hangout, but I'm fearing that I put them in a wrong place. So I'm going to go delete that just in.
That would be fantastic because the invite. I don't know what you did, Seth. Messing everything up.
Sorry, everybody.
Okay, we can talk enough talk about my balls here, and let's talk about something else.
Wow.
Heyo.
Heyo.
Um, what the heck was that? That was weird. Sorry about that. The other news in Cedar Rapids. Did you mention the extension of the agreement?
No, I didn't, but that's obviously a pretty huge thing. And, reports are from Jim Ecker of the Metro Sports Report in Cedar Rapids that the Twins and the Cedar Rapids Colonels are going to most likely tomorrow sign paperwork and agree to adding 6 years to their agreement and going through the year 2020. Um, they had originally signed, I believe, a 2 year deal last year and this year, and I think it was a formality. They were going to resign. It's interesting that instead of doing another 2 year deal, it sounds like that PDA will be 6 years, which is it's a pretty big commitment. But honestly, in my opinion, it just makes sense. I mean, people can say St. Paul is an option, and that might be true, but there's way too much logistically that would have to happen for that to even be okay by the Midwest League or by Major League Baseball or, by various other situations and cases. So, I mean, the Twins are in a great situation with Cedar Rapids, just 4.5 hours away. They can send people down there when necessary. I just think it's a great agreement. It's a great stadium. It's a good place to watch ball, and I mean, both sides are happy with it or should be happy with it. So I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that it is going to continue. I'll continue to go down there. Would have been great to be down there this week, but just doesn't always work out. Um, moving on to the E-Twins. What do you have for me there?
Elizabethton lost to Johnson City 3-2 tonight in 10 innings, and something that hadn't happened all year did happen. But let's start by Randy LeBlanc making his first start. He gave up 1 run on 5 hits over 3 1/3 innings. Keaton Steele came on, gave up 1 run on 2 hits and a walk over 2 2/3. He struck out four. Cameron Bruiser pitched one perfect inning. Derek Rodriguez pitched the eighth and the ninth innings, no runs, and that um, took him to 19 innings this year without giving up a run. The Brett Doe he was 2 for 4 for the Twins. Nick Gordon actually pinch hit in the ninth inning and hit a sacrifice fly that sent the game to the 10th inning. And Derek Rodriguez actually gave up his first earned run of the year and took the
Oh,
loss in that one.
cut him.
Cut him. By the way, I should report this. I did get a note from our good friend, Mr. Cricket himself, Steve Boer, that the Twins and the Colonels were originally signed to a 4 year deal. So this is actually signed 2 years ahead of that being complete, and it's a 4 year extension. So good call on that one. But either way, that's a long term deal. I think in the minor leagues, and like I said, I think it's a great thing, especially you've got Jeff Johnson at the Gazette, and you've got both Steve and then Jim Ecker from Metro Sports Report. I mean, you got for a Twins fan, if you're into following the minor leagues, you've got two great places where you can get that daily information on what's going on with the Colonels. So, along with Twins Daily, of course, where we try to talk about the team every day, as well in our minor league report. But I mean, I just think it's just a great situation all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, having done the Beloit thing, trying to figure out who was coming off the roster and who was going on the roster. Um, Morgan Hawk, who does the play-by-play stuff and also the game notes. I mean, that's a ton of information too. So there's a lot of work put in by the people that work around there to help us gain this information. The E-Town deal is kind of funny. My parents took a little vacation. My dad wanted to see the Smoky Mountains, and so neither of them wanted to plan their trip. So I told them that I would plan their trip. Of course, I added a night to have them go to Elizabethton to watch a Twins game, and then on their way home, I was going to detour them up through Chicago, which they were going to avoid because the Twins were playing the White Sox. So they didn't actually let me plan their trip. But when they were around Elizabethton, they couldn't do it for a night, but they drove up for a day, like an hour and a half, to go to Joel Bryan Field and take pictures. So that was at the time that we were doing some stuff, so I didn't have my phone on me, and I had a missed call and a voicemail from my mom, and she's like, "Hey, there's people batting. Who should I take pictures of?" And I got the voicemail like an hour later. So I sent her a text. I think I just sent her a text with Nick Gordon's number, and but they'd already left. So anyway, they got back, and she's like, "Look at these pictures." So they went there, and there was a gate open. So they just went right in, and she's like, "Yeah, some of the players were looking at us kind of funny because they were out on the field doing their workout, and my mom just walked right in and started taking pictures." So it was mostly the pitchers that she had pictures of, like Felix Jorge, and there's a pitcher with a pretty sweet mustache. I mean, it was hard to tell all the numbers, but it was like you drove an hour and a half out of your way to take a picture of the field for me when you could have just drove up. I said you could have went to the game with sat in the front row for $6, and my dad's like, actually they were $4, and it's like, come on. And then
I'd be curious. We have any listeners from Elizabeth or those at Twins Daily, because we've got people at Cedar Rapids, Fort Myers, New Britain, Rochester. I'd be curious if anyone listening is from Elizabeth, and reach out to us, and we'd be interested in chatting with you, I think.
Yeah, it just and that's the thing. It's like I don't know anything about. I mean, besides some of the guys I've talked to that have played there, but it's like it's such a mystery,
Yep, kind of like the gummy bears.
The gummy bears.
Magic and mystery are part of their history.
And there it is, boys and girls. Seth singing.
Bouncing around as our song fills the air. Gummy bears.
Oh boy. Okay. Let's talk.
Should I go through the GCL scores quick?
Do the other scores.
All right, GCL played 2 games today. They finished off one and played another. The first game they lost 2-1 to the Orioles. Mike Theophanopoulos on his birthday gave up 1 run on 3 hits and 2 walks in 3 innings. Then Alexis Tapia came in and threw 2 scoreless innings. Zach Jones gave up a walk and he got a strikeout in 2/3 of an inning. That was his second rehab appearance, I believe. Miles Nordgren went 2 1/3 scoreless. Leonel Zazueta gave up an unearned run on a hit in 2/3 of an inning to take the loss. Twins had just 3 hits in this game. Corey Wimberly was 0 for 4 on his rehab. Zach Granite was 0 for 3 with a stolen base in his rehab. Morris Minier hit his 5th home run. Also of note, TJ White made his professional debut. The third baseman went 0 for 3, and he committed 2 errors, so things can only go uphill from here. And then in the second game, the Twins lost 2-1 to the Orioles again. Josh Burris pitched in that one. He gave up only an unearned run on 1 hit and 2 walks over 3 innings. He struck out 2. Remember, he's returning from an oblique injury as well. John Silva gave up a run on 2 hits and 2 innings, and Zach Tillery pitched 2 scoreless innings. And in that game, the team had just 4 hits. Manuel Guzman was 2 for 3 and stole his 9th, 10th, and 11th bases of the season.
That's not a bad
Very
one.
exciting stuff, and the GCL will not be making the playoffs.
Were they eliminated from contention today? Or they're
I don't know about that. They're just not good. I think at this point they are now 14-25 on the season.
But you're saying there's a chance.
I don't know that they've been mathematically eliminated yet.
Okay, let's do some questions. I'm gonna load these up, and then we're gonna end our show with our other talk that we're gonna have. Questions that we've got. From Rick Niederman, Twins fan Rick, can you discuss some of your prospect surprises and some disappointments?
Well, as we mentioned, he's hit 10 of 11 games, but I think Max Kepler being hurt again has been a disappointment. I think he will fall in some prospect rankings. I think the recent news of Eddie Rosario violating team rules and not playing for 4 straight days for unknown reasons, although obviously probably nothing too terrible, hopefully, if it was only 4 games, but that's disappointing. I'm sure there's others. I mean, injuries are a part of the game, so anyone that's been hurt, unfortunately, it's probably been a disappointing year for them. On the other side, I mean, again, for me, a guy like Vargas kind of taking this step, or Danny Santana going from a mid-level prospect to a guy who's doing what he's done has been positive. And then just, I mean, guys that are not considered prospects, guys at Cedar Rapids like Mitch Garver or what Alex Swim has done so far, or I mean, there's just a lot of examples of guys that may have not jumped into prospect status, but at least done enough that you're going to keep them around. And if you continue to get opportunities, you just never know.
Right. I think that Cedar Rapids offense has been a pleasant surprise. I mean, we kind of hoped that the pitching staffs would carry that team, but I mean, you mentioned those guys. Christensen's been a stud. Har's been really good. Uh, I think that's been the most pleasant surprise for me personally. As far as disappointments, I thought Brian Gilbert would have a better year. I mean, just that popped into my head. Kepler, like you had mentioned, um, the New Britain team. I mean, a lot of those guys were in Fort Myers last year, and not a ton, I guess, but I thought maybe that team would have a better year. But other than that, I mean, not a lot of things just jump out to me. But ask us again in September, and maybe we'll have a different opinion.
Right, and I mean, you talk about Brian Gilbert to kind of go the other direction there. How about Brandon Peterson, who started the year at Cedar Rapids? I mean, the Burnsville high school guy has been just tremendous. He was again on my top relief pitchers of the month of July. He's just been dominant since he's been up in Fort Myers too. I mean, he's been impressive. And then speaking of bullpens, if you look at that, as Steve Lean mentioned on our Twins minor league report, I think it was on Sunday, the three-headed monster that has been Nick Birdie, Jake Reed, and Dallas Gallant, not to mention Alex Mirren, who did move up to Fort Myers, a couple weeks ago, continues to be very good. I mean, Brandon Bixler's been good. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have been good. Whether or not they're considered prospects at this point, I don't know, but they've had a lot of guys really kind of step up this year.
Right. Next question here comes from Topper Anton and at Curve for a Strike. Asks, is our next cornerstone catcher in the system right now? I.e. Turner, Coach, Navarretto, Swim, etc.
Well, I think Navarretto has had a tough year so far at Elizabeth, and again, he's very young for that level. I mean, I think Swim to this point. I mean, now he's getting his playing time, but it's not a catcher. Quesada and Garver are getting the catching opportunities, and they want Swim's bat. I mean, he's hitting 330 something. They're playing him in right field and DHing too. So, I mean, I think Stuart Turner's the name to kind of watch. I mean, he's probably the top prospect. I don't think there's any question about that. He's probably the closest. But, again, what Garver's done, he's 1 year older than Turner, and, he's one level below, but, he's done enough with the bat to make you say, you know what, he's earned the opportunity to get to Fort Myers, and you can feel comfortable enough that I think he'll get an opportunity at some point to go to New Britain. And at some point, it'd be kind of nice to see those two, Turner and Garver, play on the same team and try to get similar playing time. I mean, it'd just be interesting to see how that would play out.
Right. I mean, those are the two guys, really the only two guys that you can even say at this point have a shot. Things will obviously change, but those are the two guys that have the greatest chance of being Major League Baseball players. Now, if you want to call either of those guys cornerstone catchers,
Yeah, that's a tricky word. Maybe not cornerstone because
Right. But how many teams have cornerstone catchers?
it's less and less.
Right. Um, Now, if the guy that's going to be the starting catcher when Suzuki leaves, is he on the roster? I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean a lot will depend on how comfortable pitchers get with Josmil Pinto over the next couple of years.
Right. Now, I mean, could you see a situation where the Twins, if there's a college catching stud, that the Twins go that route really early in the draft? Like if they're drafting the top 6 or 7 and a college guy's there, I mean, maybe that's a route that the Twins go, but that's so hard to predict because the draft's hard to predict anyway, and it's 9, 10 months away. So,
Right.
uh,
I mean, honestly, if they had a catcher deemed as their top player, they'd absolutely take him.
right. And if you're taking a catcher that high, the likelihood is you want to make that guy a cornerstone quote catcher. So, I mean, if you're asking me what are the chances, or is the guy on the roster? I'd just say no because that's such a tricky spot to fill. But there are a couple guys that could be Major League Baseball players for sure. Another question we had was from Terry Anderson at Nader79A, and he asked about the corresponding roster move. If May and Malone go to Oakland, and if it'd be Calabello and Pinto or Pino, excuse me. That's what we talked about earlier. So I would assume that if those two were the next two to come up, that the two that he had mentioned would be the next two to go down. Um, the
I
last
think that makes
question
sense.
The last question that we have, and I'm going to check Twins Daily while I'm doing this, but we have a question from Bill Peterson. It's an interesting question. That's why I wanted to save it because I think it's going to lead to more discussion. Um, as we wrap up the show tonight. The question is from Bill: do you guys think the Twins might make Paul Molitor the hitting coach and move Bernansky over to a base coach or the bench coach? Seems like Molitor is a natural hitting coach with his credentials. What do you think?
Response on that, I mean, his credentials sure didn't do a very good job as the hitting coach in Seattle when he was the Mariners hitting coach. You know, I think Paul Molitor is a smart guy, and I think he could be a good manager. I think that he's older than Ron Gardenhire, and if the Twins make a change, I would prefer they go the direction of Jake Mauer or Doug Minkiewicz, or a guy like Dave Martinez or Luis Soho or somebody. I'd rather kind of go that direction, I think, than Molitor. Not that you want to lose Molitor. I think he's a valuable guy on the bench. As far as Brunansky as hitting coach, I mean, you probably got some good and you've got some bad, as you do with every side. I mean, Dozier's taken a step forward, and yet he really hasn't improved the batting average angle of it, but he's become good. Um, and the thing is, I think Joe Bavra was a good hitting coach. You're going to have your successes and the guys that didn't necessarily get better. It's the same with pitching coaches. It's the same with everything. So the short answer, even though it's too late, is I don't. I mean, Molitor might be a good hitting coach. I don't know. It certainly isn't because of his credentials. That's not the reason he'd be a good hitting coach.
Right, and I guess for me, and this is we do have some questions on the Twins Daily website, so we'll get to those too. But for me, the the sticky part becomes you're not just going to swap out a couple guys. You know what I mean? You're not, well, maybe the Twins have been known to shuffle deck chairs, but if you move Molitor to the hitting coach and you move Bruno somewhere else, do you get rid of your third base coach? Do you get rid of your first base coach? Are you firing people on your staff? Are you promoting people? And that's where this whole slippery slope happens. If Guardy's back or not back, I mean, if let's say Guardy's not back, start from the top and look down. How many coaches and managers in this system are gone.
Um, I mean, I only think Rick Anderson would be gone if Gardy was fired, and I think Joe Vavra and Scott Alger would as well. I think Brunansky and Cuellar and Molitor would probably be retained in some role.
Steinbeck?
Um, Steinbach, I think, would stay. Um, I don't know. You could mix the roles up from there, but I mean, I don't see the Twins doing a complete blow up. But I think if Gardy goes, then Anderson goes, Alger goes, and Vavra goes, right or wrong. I think all of those guys have their qualities and are hard workers who know the game of baseball better than any of us ever will. But I'm also to the point where it has been 4 bad years in a row. I don't put very much of that on Ron Gardenhire or the coaches, but I do think that a change needs to happen. And I don't know what the right answer to that is. I'm not going to pretend I know what the right answer to that is. But, I mean, I think those four would change immediately. And then it would just depend on who they decided to go with from a managerial standpoint.
So, in the event that Gardy is not the manager next year, is that Terry Ryan firing him?
I mean, I don't know how it would word in a press release or anything like that. I'm sure it would be a discussion saying, "Hey, I think it's time." And Gardy probably, just kind of knowing him through words or whatever, seems like the kind of guy that would just say, "You know what? I think you're right." And he'd probably put it as a resigning or something like that. Put it nicely, and he'll say all the right things. And then I think he will have a managerial job within 2 months.
Really?
I think so.
God, I don't know. I mean, I could see him retiring.
If he wants it, yeah, that's the other part. If he wants it, I think he can.
Yeah, I could see him retiring and a lot of guys not being renewed. The thing is, I mean, you say you don't put a lot of this on Gardy. Does it fall on Terry Ryan?
Well, I think it's a matter of players.
So it does.
Um, yeah, I mean, to some degree. I mean, I don't know how much people still want to get on the Bill Smith thing. And it's not. You can't really look at case by case and say that was a bad move. That was a bad move. And I think they've made a lot of good moves that haven't paid out. I mean, obviously, we all loved the Ricky Nolasco deal when it was signed. Every Twins fan I know liked that signing, and it certainly hasn't paid off to this point. Phil Hughes has been pretty decent. You look at Willingham, the first year was pretty decent. There've been a lot of good moves, and I mean, put Sam Fuld in that. The other side of it, of course, is player development, and I don't think that unless you can find a way to stop injuries from happening, which I don't think in baseball you can if people are playing the game the right way, guys haven't moved up. I mean, a lot of the prospects that have been healthy have done a good job and advanced, as you would hope. But the key guys, the Buxton, the Sano, even May would be up if not for a calf injury, which you certainly can't predict. To me, injuries and then Rosario suspension. There's been some weird stuff. So it's hard for me to find a ton of blame in anything, but I just overall think that something needs to change.
So, if you were a betting man, you bet on Gardy being gone.
Yes,
In season or postseason?
I think postseason.
Like immediately?
I think within a few days of the season being over, like they did the last couple of years.
And him and Anderson and Scotty, Alger and Barbara.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think they would sign those other guys right away either until they hired a new manager. If they hired Mankiewicz or Mauer or maybe Gene Glynn is the guy, to some degree you're going to want to let them set their own staffs. And how Brunansky plays into that. If you're hiring from within, you can kind of, as the GM or Mike Radcliffe or whoever makes those types of decisions, can have a voice in that. Maybe they say, you know what, we want Brunansky to be the hitting coach. So Minkiewicz, you have Brunansky as your hitting coach, but you can decide if you want Coach X or Coach Y or Steinbach or whoever it is. If they were to go outside the organization, maybe hire a Luis Soho or Dave Martinez or something like that. Um, that type of player probably doesn't know these guys and may want to bring in his own staff, which I think they'd have to be supportive of.
Right. That could be an interesting dynamic. I mean, the whole thing could be very interesting. That whole process with an organization that's really not gone outside for things.
Right, and I don't. I mean, I generally believe in that. I don't believe they should go outside the organization most of the time, and I don't necessarily think they should at this time. I mean, you consider. I mean, again, this goes back to a theory I had earlier in the year where I thought this was probably the last year, or maybe next year would be the last year for Gardenhire because Tom Kelly coached or managed 4 straight losing seasons, 4 straight 90-loss seasons, and I think 5 or 6 straight losing seasons. He brought them back to respectability in 2001 and then resigned. Like he had done his job and gotten them back to respectability. He resigned. Tom Kelly, when he was coming up, he had been a manager of a lot of the guys that were the core of that 87, 91 team. So they kind of all came up together, including the manager. Then you look at Gardenhire and his entire coaching staff: Steve Little, Scott Alger, at the one point, Al Newman. These guys were all guys that managed in the Twins farm system with Gardenhire. They all came up together. They had managed the guys like Torrey Hunter and Doug Minkiewicz and all of Chad Allen and Christian Guzman and all of these guys on their way up. So they kind of could be heard. It almost feels like the players are kind of in place for 2 years from now or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a new group of Twins managers from the minor league system getting that opportunity to move up and probably being heard. I'm not saying you're going to win a World Series like Tom Kelly, like the players on Tom Kelly's team did, and I'm not saying you're going to win, 8 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 division titles the way Gardy did with his players that he came up with, but I think there's a lot of guys that are going to be coming up over the next couple of years that played for Minkiewicz, that played for Mauer, that played for Gene Glynn, that it does make some sense in theory to move them all up and have a manager that they know as well.
That is something that I never thought of, but I feel smarter listening to you talk about it.
It's because you're younger than me and I'm old enough to remember such things.
Hey, I got a name for you. Mike Redmond.
Yeah, I that name has come up a little bit. You just kind of wonder what the Marlins are going to do because they're not exactly. I mean, Twins can say or Twins fans can say that the Twins are cheap, but they really haven't been. But the Marlins really have been. So I mean, that's not necessarily a name that isn't realistic.
Because did he play it all with Minkiewicz, or was Minkiewicz done by the time Redmond came around?
I think he did play. I mean, it would have been like 06, so I think they played together.
Because I just think he would be a guy that, and obviously he wasn't a Twin forever, but it's just another name that I thought would make sense. He seems like a guy that's very much like Gardy, so maybe that wouldn't be the answer.
Right, well, he is, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Doug Minkiewicz is just like Gardy. I mean, they have the same personalities and they've come up together. But I think the fact that, like I said before, players come up and they get to know them, and instead of being, Gardenhire's the guy up here, at the peak, but he didn't see these guys coming up. There might be a different kind of, and I don't think respect is the right word, but a comfort level where you've played for a guy for several years that I think can be valuable. Then again, I mean, I won't disagree with people that say we need to make a complete change, but
right.
The distinction I like to make sure I make is that the struggles doesn't necessarily mean that Ron Gardenhire doesn't know how to manage or
Right.
Rick Anderson doesn't know how to coach pitchers. It just means that right now it's just not working for whatever reason.
Right. A couple other questions here before we call the night. Question from Lightfoot789. This comes from Twins Daily. Um, Long story short, wondering why Adam Brett Walker, given how he is this year, has not gotten a promotion.
I mean, I think that's a pretty easy answer. And I'm going to look up something real quick while I'm talking out loud to verify that. That's an easy answer. 240 batting average, the 296 on base percentage, 81 strikeouts, and 412 at bats. I mean, all of these are reasons why he hasn't moved up. And people want to say that he's old for the level. He's 22 in Fort Myers. That's not old. We've been through this before. Yeah, Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano are young for their levels, which makes them top prospects in baseball. Adam Walker is a good prospect. He's not a top prospect in baseball, so don't expect him to make the major leagues when he's 23 or 24. It may take him till 25, and it may be worth it. I'm sorry, 128 strikeouts and 412 at bats, so like 32% or something like that. Those aren't numbers that scream promotion. Neither is a 731 OPS. Yeah, he's got the pretty numbers, the 22 home runs, the 81 RBIs, but he's where he should be. And none of this is to knock him. He's a good prospect, and he's working, and he's doing those things, but he's not ready for Double-A, and so you leave him. I'm kind of saying that a little matter-of-factly, but maybe, Jeremy, do you disagree?
No, I would leave him there for the year. Which maybe kind of brings us to the next question. Lightfoot also asked, who are the AFL picks? And we talked about that a little last week. The question was posed right before the show started, and that's something that we'll have to probably do a little more research on to answer. Walker could be one of those guys in my mind. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, he's a possibility. The fact that you can have two guys from Fort Myers, part of that's why I'd like to see Buxton get up to Double-A. I think we know Buxton's going to be one of those guys. Last week when we talked about it, I had said Taylor Rogers and Mason Melitakis. I mean, Melitakis at this point isn't looking like a good bet. I still think if Rogers isn't hurt too bad, that he'd be an option to go there. You're going to get a reliever or two, but the guys from Fort Myers that are intriguing are guys like Levi Michael, who you've got to make a decision on, and Adam Walker, who you might want to throw up against some of that competition. The other one's Travis Harrison, who has been hitting really well for average. He just hit his third home run the other day. He does have 27 doubles. He's hitting 288. He's having a solid year, but I think his thing is going to be adding some power, which I still believe he will. He's a candidate as well. So, yeah, it's hard to predict, but we should be finding that out, I would think, within the next week or so.
Well, if it's been announced before our next show, we'll talk about it. If it hasn't been announced before our next show, we'll try to come up with a more solid guess. And then our last thing that was posted was also from Nader791, or 79A, who had asked the same question that he asked on Twitter. So I feel like we've covered all of those. Some notes. Phil Hughes was dealing with a cracked fingernail on his right index finger tonight in the game that the Twins just won. Kenny Vargas hit his first career home run, a 3-run blast to drive in all the runs. He drives in all the runs. And Glenn Perkins navigated through kind of a messy ninth to pick up the save.
Yeah, that's kind of what distracted me earlier was Vargas's home run. It was a no-doubter. It was a question. I mean, some of these comments on Twitter are talking about his personality. Tyler Mason from FSN. Kenny Vargas is quickly becoming a fan favorite and a media favorite too. Very engaging personality. You can tell he's having fun. Some teammates may not necessarily always call it having fun as much as being a little aloof, but they definitely enjoy being his teammate. But he's a guy that's probably going to be able to handle struggles because that's his personality. As someone else posted, I think it was Andrew said, Sano's the same way. Sano's got a great personality. These guys are the kind that are not only going to be good ball players, but they're going to be media and fan favorites because of their personalities. So I think that's very true, and you could see that when they were both playing, especially when they were playing together. I think you and I were both there at the same time when they were in Beloit, and you could just see that when they were, coming off the field or playing catch together and all that kind of stuff. They're having a lot of fun out there.
Right. There's a lot of different. I mean, you add you know, just what you know about the other guys, and there's going to be a lot of different personalities coming together. And I mean, obviously every team's like that, but I'm talking polar differences. So it should be interesting as this team grows and develops. Do you have any final parting words of wisdom for us tonight, Seth?
You know what? Not that I can think of right now. We'll continue to follow the minor leagues throughout the rest of the season, and the big league club is going to get interesting. I guess one other thought, we do talk a lot about we're not seeing this guy, we're not seeing that guy, but we're already seeing Danny Santana and Kenny Vargas and Oswaldo Arcia is getting playing time, and they're doing what's best right now for Aaron Hicks. We're seeing some of that now, and I would expect as we started the show off with, we'll probably see Trevor May and Tommy Malone within the next week, most likely both starting for the Twins before we have our next show. And then Alex Meyer may not be far behind. It'll be interesting to see that role. So, we can talk about all that as much as we want about the, wanting guys up a little quicker, but they're coming, and they're coming. They're going to be coming pretty quickly here too. So it should be fun the last couple of months to be able to talk about some of those things, some of those stories.
Now we're going to leave it with that. Thanks for joining us again. We will be back next Tuesday night, and we'll be talking about the hopefully all those guys that Seth just mentioned. So thanks again, and we will see you next Tuesday night.